It was not a war for God, and saying it like that is uncomfortable, because it goes against everything we were taught.
They told us Europe burned for faith, that for 30 years Catholics and Protestants killed each other because they believed in different things, as if millions had died over a spiritual disagreement.
But Europe did not bleed because of a badly spoken prayer. It bled for 3 decades, entire kingdoms, complete empires, states making decisions not in the name of heaven, but of power.
If it really had been a war for God, why were the dead praying to the same one? Why did the razed villages not even know which side they were fighting for?
Faith was the language, not the cause. A perfect language. Because when something is said in the name of God, no one questions it, no one argues it, no one dares to disobey.
Kings did not say, "We want more territory." They said, "We defend the true faith." Empires did not say, "We need to control Europe." They said, "God is on our side."
And when God appears in the discourse, violence no longer needs an explanation. It becomes duty. It becomes obedience. It becomes sacred.
The 30 Years' War did not begin because Europe stopped believing the same thing. It began when someone understood that belief was the best way to rule.
And that is the fracture that is almost never mentioned. It was not a religious war that spiraled out of control. It was a human war, hidden behind God. It did not arrive with trumpets. It did not arrive with flags. It arrived on foot.
Central Europe. Small villages lost among forests and dirt roads. Fragmented German territories where no one ruled completely and no one was safe.
The war did not enter through palaces. It entered through the back door, through the barn, through the kitchen.
An empty table, hard bread rationed in silence, children learning not to cry because noise could bring trouble.
The bells no longer called to mass. They warned. They did not announce faith. They announced danger.
No one asked which army was coming because it did not matter. One day it was some. Weeks later, others. Same language, same cross, same hunger.
Houses were searched, grain counted, livestock marked with eyes of fear, not out of hatred, out of necessity.
Women hid what little was left. Men lowered their gaze. And the prayers no longer asked for victory. They asked for them to pass by.
There were no glorious battles here. There was waiting for them to leave, waiting for the house not to be burned, waiting for no one to knock on the door at night.
The war did not feel like history. It felt like a constant weight on the chest, like living, knowing that it did not matter what you believed. What mattered was how little you had for it to be taken from you.
And so, without speeches or treaties, the war settled in, not as an event, but as a way of life. What happened in that village was not an excess. It was not a night out of control. It was not a group of undisciplined soldiers.
It was routine, because armies were not always paid. And when there is no pay, war learns to feed itself.
Soldiers marched with weapons, but also with hunger, and that hunger had a direction.
Villages were not collateral damage. They were the objective. Grain, livestock, clothes, people, anything that could sustain an army one more day.
First some came. They took what little there was. They burned what they could not carry.
Then others came. They found ruins and still demanded something, because war did not stop when there was nothing left.
Catholics, Protestants, allies, enemies. In looting, those words lost meaning.
A village could be liberated in the morning and looted at night. The side did not matter. Survival did.
Thus, violence ceased to be a consequence. It became a method. It was not only about winning battles. It was about continuing to advance.
And when a system depends on looting to exist, peace becomes impossible, because stopping the war meant stopping eating.
That is why it was not chaos out of control. It was a structure, cold, efficient, repeated.
Violence was not a flaw of the system. It was its fuel.
Dozens of German territories, princes, free cities, duchies, each with its own ambition, its own fear, its own faith, or the faith that suited it best.
Above them all, a dynasty obsessed with control. The Habsburgs. Their objective was not to save souls. It was to hold together what was falling apart.
Religion served to organize the discourse, but decisions were made thinking about maps, borders, and power. And then the others entered. Spain, defending Habsburg influence beyond its own borders. Sweden, Protestant, not out of spiritual purity, but because war opened a path for it in Europe. And France, Catholic, financing Protestant armies not out of betrayal of faith, but for balance of power.
This is where the official version completely breaks, because when a Catholic power supports Protestants, it becomes clear that God is no longer deciding anything.
Alliances changed, discourses adapted, faith adjusted as convenient, but the objective was always the same, not to lose influence.
The war did not follow religious rules. It followed political rules. Who controls which territory? Who surrounds whom? Who loses power if the war stops?
And while altars set the tone of the discourse, thrones set the real direction.
That is why this war lasted 30 years. Not because no one knew how to end it, but because too many needed it to continue.
Within this system, not everyone was an executioner, many were simply trapped.
Soldiers who did not march out of conviction. They marched because an empty stomach does not understand faith. Obedience was not a virtue. It was a way to stay alive one more day.
The order did not always arrive shouted. Sometimes it arrived in silence. Go into that house. Look for food. Don't ask.
And when they obeyed, they did not think about God. They thought about bread.
Peasants learned another obedience, the obedience of silence, not because they believed in the army passing through, but because speaking could cost them everything.
Lowering the gaze, handing over what little was left, pretending not to see. It was not cowardice. It was calculation.
Even local leaders, pastors, mayors, minor lords, lived trapped between two sins: betray their faith or hand over their people.
Some blessed armies to avoid reprisals. Others signed orders they knew were unjust, not out of malice, out of fear.
Here morality ceased to be clear. Doing the right thing could mean dying. Doing the wrong thing could save others.
The war did not only break bodies, it broke consciences. It forced people to choose between surviving and continuing to be who they were.
And that is the deepest wound of this war. Not what the armies did, but what it forced ordinary people to do. Because when the system corners you, the question is no longer what is right. It is what you can endure.
After some time, the war stopped feeling like war. It became routine. 30 years do not only destroy armies, they destroy the soil, the rhythm of life, the very idea of a future. Germany was left unrecognizable. Not one city, not one region. Entire territories reduced to silence. Villages erased from the map. Abandoned fields. Roads that no longer led anywhere. Not because no one wanted to return, but because no one was left. Millions died. Not only by sword or bullet, they died of hunger, of cold, of diseases that arrived after the looting. And those who survived did not inherit victories. They inherited ruins. Children growing up without parents. Parents burying children. Entire generations learning to live without remembering what life was like before. The war did not end when the fighting stopped. It ended when there was nothing left to take. That is what the 30 Years' War really left behind. Not a clear winner, not a triumphant faith. A void. A continent marked by the idea that destruction can become normalized if it lasts long enough. That is why calling it a war falls short. It was not a conflict. It was a prolonged sentence imposed on people who never chose it. Orders stop looking like orders. They become mandates. Obedience stops being fear. It becomes virtue. You no longer kill out of ambition. You kill out of duty. You no longer loot out of hunger. You loot because that's how it must be. Sacred language does something very precise. It removes responsibility. If God wants it, no one is guilty. And when no one is guilty, everything becomes possible. Violence no longer needs explanation. It needs no defense. It needs no forgiveness. The 30 Years' War did not only show what human beings are capable of doing, it showed how easy it is to convince them when they are told they obey something greater than themselves. It does not matter whether that God is religious, ideological, or moral. When it becomes unquestionable, it fulfills the same function. It suspends doubt, it silences conscience, it turns harm into sacrifice. And that is the true legacy of this war, not the division between Catholics and Protestants, but the proof that when power disguises itself as faith, human beings learn to obey even that which destroys them. That is why this story does not belong only to the 17th century. It belongs to anyone who has ever heard the phrase, "It's for a greater good." The mechanism survived. It only learned to change its name. Today it is no longer always called God. Sometimes it is called homeland, sometimes security, sometimes order, progress, values. But the logic is the same.
Convincing millions that obeying is moral, that questioning is betrayal, that killing can be necessary.
The 30 Years' War left us a warning that almost no one wants to hear. Not all wars are fought for what they claim, but all of them need someone to believe it.
And the question that remains is not historical. It is uncomfortably current. How many wars are not fought for God, but need us to believe they are? How many human decisions continue to hide behind something sacred? Because when we stop asking who decides and start saying that's how it must be, history does not end. It prepares to repeat itself.